Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I am very excited to do a spoiler breakdown of all my favorite things of Spider-Man Brand New Day. Again, this will be a spoiler breakdown, so I'm going to cover all the things that I enjoyed about the film, and I will be going through spoilers, so you've been warned, okay? Now, in this video, I'm going to go through all the things that I liked the most. I'm not going to do like an official review of the movie because I did my out of the theater reaction. And if you see that in my shorts here on YouTube or on Instagram, I kind of already said what I needed to say. I liked the film very, very much. I have no notes, to be honest. My favorite thing was the script. I thought the movie was perfectly written. It had great emotional arcs, great action sequences. Everything was a really good payoff for things that led for the conclusion of the film. I thought it was the best looking film in the franchise. I thought it was the most adult. It went with all the themes of the movie. So I already said what I needed to say. I want to get into the spoilers. I want to talk Sadie Sink as Jean Grey. We can finally say it. Sadie Sink is Jean Grey. So that's where I want to start. So what are my thoughts on Sadie Sink as Jean Grey? I loved her. Every second of it, okay? I thought Sadie delivered a really strong performance. I've never seen her this sure of herself in front of the camera. She seemed strong, composed, very poised. We're seeing now an adult, more grown-up version of her and her skills as an actress. I really loved what she did with the character. Now, one thing that I was surprised, and I'm wondering how it was in your theater, was the reveal. The reveal was a little bit lackluster. It wasn't one of those reveals where somebody lands and goes, "I'm Jean Grey," and everybody applauds and "Wah!" and it's a big riot. No, it was kind of like a throwaway thing where they showed it on a computer screen and you're like, "Oh, she's Jean Grey," right? Which I'm okay with, because to be honest, sometimes those big dramatic like reveals can be kind of cringe with Marvel, as we've seen in recent years. So I'm okay that they did it very like subtle, and for me it worked. But I was surprised that my theater, no reaction. Nobody made a peep, nobody clapped, nobody went, "Oh," nobody. I was the only one that went, "Yes." And everybody looked at me, but nobody had a reaction. So I wonder if in your theater was the same thing. I guess we all expected it, maybe? I don't know. But that had me a little bit confused. Now, one thing that does surprise me about the performance and the take on Jean is that, did she feel like Jean? Did Sadie Sink feel like she was playing Jean Grey? Not really. This is a very specific, different take or version of the character. The Jean Grey that I grew up with, the one that I came to love, was from the 1990s animated cartoon that now we have again with X-Men 97. Then we have the movies, and that Jean in those movies from the Fox universe, they were very similar. Jean was very similar to the animated cartoon. And to me, Jean has always been someone who was beautiful, was a strong woman, but when it came to her powers, she was a little bit weak. She was insecure of them. She was unsure of them, and she feared her powers. And every time she tried to do something big, she would go, and then she would pass out, "Oh, Scott." And she always called for Scott, right? Like she would like faint and she needed Scott. Almost like a damsel in distress. And in the movies of the Fox universe, that's how she kind of came across. And same thing in the animated series, right? So to have a Jean in this movie who was extremely strong, very confident, very secure of her powers and herself, that she devised that plan to try and go after her sister and do all the things that she did, that's very different for Jean. That is not the Jean that we know. Now, I am okay with it. And I am okay with it for this very reason. I've already seen the other Jean in every iteration of the character. Maybe it's time we do something different. So I am okay with Jean Grey being different moving forward and Sadie Sink giving us a different look and different version of the character. So I'm okay with it. All right. Now, did we like her mind control powers and the way she used her power set? It was different, right? The way she kept jumping from person to person. I had never seen Jean do that. But again, I don't read the comics. So maybe in the comics she did that. But in the movies and in the cartoons, it didn't seem, or I don't remember her doing that. So at first I was a little bit confused. I enjoyed it. I thought it was clever. I thought that chase sequence when Jean is going after MJ and Spider-Man is going to try and save MJ, that was a fun little chase sequence. I like that we learned that she had a limitation to her powers and she could only jump like 30 feet from person to person. That made it a little bit more interesting, right? So that was cool. But as far as the whole mind control thing, I kept thinking during the theater, is this what a telepath is supposed to do? I don't think so. But then I started remembering, and I want to say that in the Fox movies, Xavier does that several times. He jumps into someone's mind, and then that person starts speaking as Xavier. So I guess it's fine. I just never seen it done with Jean before, but hey, being a telepath is being a telepath. So I'm okay with it. However, the way she evolved during the movie and became so powerful and so strong and even more confident and sure of herself by the end of the film. Oh my God, I loved it. Okay? I love that in a movie we got to see a mutant become extremely powerful all by themselves. Okay? And I love that the result of the experiment that they were doing on her, that she had to use her mind to fight it off, she now evolved her power of telekinesis. Because in the entire movie, I was like, why is she moving stuff? Why is she only mind controlling people? Why is she not using telekinesis? Well, now we know why. Because at the end, when they were doing that experiment on her, and she found out about VMAX and what it meant, her mind expanded, her mutation expanded, and boom, now she had telekinesis. And she put those glass shards in front of that other villain. I forgot his name now. But that was really cool to see. I love that moment in the film. One thing that I did not like, though, is that why does Marvel and most of these superhero comic book movies refuse to give us at least somewhat an accuracy when it comes to the power sets of these characters? To me, Jean is synonymous, and I don't even read the comics, but I can see the images of the covers and how it looks by Googling it. Her powers are supposed to be pink as my lights over here. So every time she used her powers in the end and there was nothing pink, I was like, oh, come on, you guys, give us the pink. I want to see the pink. It's kind of annoying, right? So maybe in the next X-Men movie, they'll fix that in some way. But in this one, I was a little bit disappointed. It would have been really cool if when she was holding the glass shards in front of that guy's face, they would have had a little bit of a pink shine to them or a pink color to them to show us, hey, this is, Jean using her powers like the comics. And I guarantee you people would appreciate that detail a lot because fans want that. So I'm surprised that they're not doing that. Even in X-Men 97, her powers are blue, which is fine. At least it's colorful, but they're supposed to be pink. And then I want to talk about the outfit that she was wearing in the film and the collars that she was wearing. If you notice, the collars that she was wearing throughout the film in every outfit that she had was black, a little bit of green, like a mountain green color, and yellow, almost like a mustard, maybe even gold yellow, which are those are her colors from her costumes in the comics. Not only her regular colors, but you could even say the Phoenix colors, gold and black, gold, green, and black, right? So I like that attention to detail, but I do wonder what it means. Since in this version of Jean was a little bit mean and a villain pretty much in the movie, Does this mean that they're leading or going to she has a darkness inside, aka the Dark Phoenix? I kind of hope not because I'm tired of the Phoenix storyline, if I'm honest. I've seen it now done 3 times, or I guess 2 times in the movies. I've seen it in the cartoons. And in the movies, it hasn't worked. They haven't been able to deliver that story to its full potential. And I think I'm done with it. I don't need it. And I also don't want it while Jean is like a teenager or a young girl. I want that story when she is a full blown woman. So maybe if the X-Men movies do well, and maybe, 5, 6, 7 years from now, they're still making the movies and they are hits and successful, and the characters, the actors now are older, maybe then I would take that story. But right now, I don't want it. So I hope they're not going with that at all. Now I want to talk about her sister, Sarah. I did not know she had a sister. So when she, in the movie, whispered Sarah to Peter, I was like, who's Sarah? I kind of kept thinking to myself, wait, go back in your backlog. Who's Sarah? I never would have guessed that she had a sister, but she does have a sister in the comic named Sarah. I don't know if she has powers though, but I thought it was really well done the moment when she finds out what VMAX is. I thought it was so powerful. It's again one of those moments and those small details in the movie that make me think, wow, they really thought this through. They try to give us really good moments that had an emotional anchor and an emotional core that would set something off in ourselves as viewers, but also in the characters. So when she goes back like that with her head and she sees VMAX on top of the ceiling and it hits her and it hits us at the same time, oh shit. The sister died looking like that upwards, and that's what she saw. That was a hard moment for us to take as viewers, but also for her. It was extremely powerful. And that's what leads her to then expand her mind, because as we know, a good mutant, when it comes to anguish, grief, and anger, that's what sets them free and sets their powers to their full potential. And that's what happens. In that moment, when she explodes, boom, and it just comes out, man, again, it was so epic. They did such a good job with that moment. That final third act with Jean in the what's it called? The defense control building, whatever it was. They really did that really well. It felt like watching an X-Men movie. I thought I was watching like an early 2000s X-Men movie. It was really, really well done. Beautifully done. Now, she did play the villain in the movie, which I was not expecting. I honestly did not even expect Sadie Sinks to have a big role. I thought she would have a cameo or a small role that we will get the reveal and then we will get her in another movie. I did not think she would be the villain at all. Never crossed my mind. But by the time we were in the midpoint of the film, I'm like, oh, she's the villain. She is the villain. And that makes me have a lot of questions. How can we now redeem Jean after all the horrible things that she did in this movie? Because she did some horrible things, right? Let me fix my chair. She did some horrible things. I think she even killed a few people. Some guy got hit with a car. All the things that fell from the building with the Hulk, that must have landed somewhere, and I'm sure it could have hurt somebody. So she put a lot of people in danger, if not kill a lot of people. So how can we now say, oh, well, we can redeem her and we can forget that she did that? I don't think that's a good thing to do, because the X-Men, historically, at least the X-Men in the X-Men team, they're supposed to be people that want to do good, right? So that's fine. Maybe now she has a change of heart and now she becomes better and wants to do good after what happened in this movie. But it's a hard pill to swallow, because it's kind of like Wanda, right? What Wanda did in WandaVision, you can redeem her after that. What Wanda did in, Multiverse of Madness, you can't redeem her from that. And we haven't seen her since then, right? But I can understand from Wanda, because Wanda always has a little bit of a darkness in her. But Jean Grey, she's supposed to be the most pure of all the X-Men. So it was weird that they went down this road with Jean. But again, I like the changes. I want to see what they do with it. I'd rather see something new than the same old, right? So, so now, as far as her story arc, I really liked what they did. I liked that in the end, they gave us that backstory with her sister. They made it very clear that her mother is the one that basically, left them and did not want to be with her daughters because they are mutants and they're different, right? So I thought it was beautiful that when she entered Peter's mind and she sat down and had a conversation with Aunt May, she felt that motherly love. And that's what made her become softer and realize that she needs more of that instead of the darkness in her heart and the pain that she's feeling and the anguish that she's feeling. And that was a very beautiful moment. And I'm really happy that they were able to bring back Aunt May to be used in that way. It was beautiful. So now that she had a change of heart, where is she headed? What's happening? Last we saw her, she is on a bus. And it looked like she was headed to northern New York. And we know what's up there. Xavier's mansion. So I feel like that was pretty obvious how they left her story so that we could catch on that she's going up there and eventually she'll find her way to the mansion. So that was pretty cool. And also, I want to bring up Samara Weaving because before I started doing this review, news came out from Deadline that Samara Weaving has been officially cast as Emma Frost in the X-Men movies. Now, I'm a little bit confused by this, only because, first of all, I think Samara is a great choice. Beautiful choice as Emma Frost. I love her as an actress. I think she is extremely talented and she's really coming into her own when it comes to her abilities as a performer. So for her to finally hit it big in the big times in a big movie like X-Men for this character that we really haven't totally seen a lot of, I think is great. Perfect casting choice. But I am worried about the age difference, right? Because Emma Frost and Jean Grey are supposed to be not nemesis, but sort of similar in age, and they have a love triangle between them and Scott, aka Cyclops. So are they totally going to now put that aside? Because clearly Sadie Sink is in her early 20s. She even looks still like a teenager. And clearly Samara Weaving looks like a much older woman, full-blown woman. So I don't think they're going to do that then. But, it's interesting though. So I still have questions of what they're going to do with the X-Men based on these casting choices and the performances that now Sadie Sink put on. All right, now let's go to Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, aka Tom Holland. Bro, his best performance ever. It really was. He has come into his own as this character. He knows exactly what he's doing. And this is a movie where he had to really bring the emotional aspects of Peter because Peter was going through a lot. Okay? So I really do think this is his best performance. And I especially love that we now have Peter as an adult. This is the Peter Parker that I grew up with from the animated cartoon series. Is the Peter that I know. It's the Peter that I know also when it comes to science and being so smart and being able to come up with all these incredible things in a lab that he did in this movie. So this is the Peter that I've always known. So I'm happy that now we left teenage Peter and we have now moved on to adult Peter, which the movie really reflects on that. The way the movie looks is more adult. So it's kind of keeping the same theme as an adult movie with an adult now character who moved on to be now an adult. So I love that. And I also love the emotional arc that he had in the film. Basically, in the movie, he was afraid of having real connections with people because he is afraid that building connections with people means he will have to experience loss once again. He will have to experience the grief of losing someone he loves, like Aunt May, which is why he decided to not give the letter to MJ and to Ned at the end of No Way Home. It's why he struggled this entire movie. Should I give them the letter or not? Because he's scared of that loss. He doesn't want to experience it. But what happened throughout all of those 4 years, where he kept pretty much putting people away and distancing himself from people in order to not feel lost, he started also losing himself. So the whole arachnid DNA taking over him, which is a great story, comic book story for the movie, is also a metaphor for what's happening with him emotionally. The arachnid DNA was taking over the Peter DNA. He was losing himself entirely, right? And that's why he became a workaholic. And he started putting himself into work to not have to deal with anything else. It's why he had no relationships at all, not even with that neighbor that told him, hey, you're in my floor. And he's like, yeah. And he kind of runs away. At first, I thought, oh, it's because she maybe likes him and he doesn't want to like anybody else out of respect of MJ because he still loves MJ so much. And I'm sure that obviously plays into it, but it's also because he doesn't want to have any connections with anybody. But I thought it was really beautiful that he did have a connection with Detective DeWolf, played by Liza Colon Sayas. Great choice, by the way. And she was perfect for the role because not only is she a colleague at work, but she serves for him as the mother figure, as a new mother figure, because he lost on May. So their conversations on the phone, I thought they were very sweet. They were about work, but if you realize what's happening, he's calling her to kind of get that motherly love that he's missing in his life. And Detective DeWolf, even though she doesn't know who he is, like in real life, I think she can detect, as a detective, she can detect that inside that mask, there is someone who is a child or very young that she feels she needs to also protect and guide. And every time they were on the phone, if you notice, she was also with her kids. And I think that was the movie letting us know that she is kind of aware that she is speaking to her other kid, another son, in a way. I thought it was beautiful. It was, again, these are the details that the movie put throughout that were very specific and small, but make a big difference when you look at it from a deeper level. And in the end, the only way that he was able to overcome that struggle that he was feeling, that distancing himself was not working, it was making him feel worse, and it was erasing him entirely, was to accept himself fully. His old self, but also his new self. This evolution that he had throughout the movie, it wasn't only an evolution from becoming more arachnoid or his DNA changing and becoming more powerful and strong. From a comic book lens, great. But from a thematic, emotional arc place, that was beautiful. He accepted in himself, and now he has become a full-blown adult. A new person has emerged. A new Peter has emerged because of everything that he's been through, and he had to accept it and realize my old life is gone. I'm moving in a new path and becoming a new man. And again, beautiful details when they wrote this movie. Amazing. So in the end, he kind of has that moment where he's talking to Aunt May and he says, you know, I'm not going to go at this alone. So what does he mean by that? Because he's still basically alone. He doesn't have, even though he connected with MJ and Ned again, they're not really fully in his life, right? So what does that mean? It means he's creating a new family, a found family that you make yourself. And I thought, again, that was beautiful. And that new family is Detective DeWolf. It's Frank Castle, the Punisher. It's Yelena, hopefully, as well. And it's all these people that he's meeting. Even Jean could become his family. The X-Men could become his family, right? He can now find people to have help from, have guidance, and have support and love. Again, beautiful, right? I also thought the movie had some incredible parallels between him and Tony Stark. If you think about it, right? So Tony was this tech-driven guy with a big tech company, and he was making all these products and weapons that were supposed to help humanity. But unknowingly, these weapons were hurting the world. And he realized that in the movies, right? And that's why he realized that I should stop doing this because I'm hurting and doing no good instead of doing, good stuff for humanity, right? So in this film, if you notice, he creates the power inhibitor, which I feel like that's going to be really important for the MCU moving forward. Again, remember, we are moving into the X-Men in like 2 years. In the X-Men, in the animated series and in the cartoons, the power inhibitor is like a collar that they put around them and they cannot use their powers. They suppress their powers. That's a way to control the mutants. And I feel like this little invention is going to backfire on Peter and it's going to have bad consequences moving forward. Remember that inhibitor. And it's kind of interesting that it's coming from him, who is living a life in a way very close to Tony Stark and the teachings that he learned from Tony Stark. Interesting, right? Another interesting parallel is the mentor role that now Peter played on Jean. He's the one that got her to calm down, realize that there's good and hope out there and that she shouldn't turn into the dark side. And he also sacrificed himself for her. The way Tony sacrificed himself for the entire humanity, for the entire world on Endgame. Again, beautiful. So many parallels here that at first glance, you're like, oh, okay, he took the bullet. But really, it's just, there's a parallel there that is very clear. Because remember, Tony was like a father figure to Peter. So all of these things that he's doing, it's what he's seen from his AKA father, right? Again, beautiful. So well done. So in the end, lessons learned for Peter Parker. There were many, but in my opinion, the ones that I feel were more important for the character is that you have to embrace yourself in order to move forward in life and take the good and the bad in order to make you a stronger human being and a stronger man, right? And that's what happens. I think it was also a good lesson that he learned that sometimes saying goodbye to your friends, to your first love, it's painful, but it's a necessity in life. It happens in life. How many friends do you have from childhood that you lost touch throughout the years? Doesn't mean something bad happens. It just means that's how life is. How many of you are not with your first love today? And maybe you're married with kids and extremely happy with the person you were meant to be, but you did have a first love who you thought was everything to you, but you guys did not end together. So my questions are, is that what's going to happen between he and MJ? Are they done fully? Are they going to rekindle their love later on? I don't know. But it would be interesting and a really good but hard lesson to swallow if they don't end up together and this is it for them. And saying goodbye to MJ is just a normal part of being a human, being a person, a normal part of life. All right, now let's talk about MJ. I was going to do this segment on MJ and Ned, but honestly, I don't want to talk about Ned. Who cares about Ned? Sorry, Ned. I'm happy that they rekindled. I'm happy that they are now friends again, and they had those beautiful moments. They were really touching. Again, I had tears. I had tears a lot in this movie. Many scenes I was tearing up. And that was one of them. When they were playing with the Legos, I was like, oh, like they're such best friends. And then when she showed him the sketch that she drew of them playing together, it's like, like she sees them, she sees the love between them. It was beautiful, but I want to focus more on MJ. Okay. So number one with MJ, I want to talk Zendaya. Zendaya blew me away. I am in such awe of her. I remember growing up and seeing her, in movies and projects and just being like, whatever, she's okay, never really fully understood her. And in the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, but especially this last year where she's had movie after movie, she's had like 5 movies out this year. She really has come into her own as an actor, and as a woman. And I see it in her work, the wisdom that she's bringing. I see in her work and in her in her acting and in her performances, all of those lessons that she is learning as a woman, as a human being navigating the world. And this is my favorite MJ that she has done, because MJ here felt like a woman, like a strong person, someone secure of herself. She always was, but here it's almost like full circle. Like now she has become the woman she was meant to be. And I loved how she brought that to the character. And she had a lot of moments in this movie where her style of acting is not like fully becoming the character. She's not like a Meryl Streep who's going to be a character actor. She is more about the presence that she brings in front of the camera. And in this movie, there are certain scenes where she enters the frame, no lines, and I'm already tearing up because her face says it all. And I love that about her and what she brought to this movie. And there were a lot of moments, again, that she did that. So her style of acting is very subtle, but it works. And it's subtle but strong. That's how I should say it. Her style of acting is subtle but strong. And I'm sure you guys feel the same thing too. She was powerful in this movie. And my favorite two scenes with her. One, I think my favorite scene was the kiss scene when Jean is actually mind controlling her and we don't know it. And they're on top of that rooftop and she's asking Peter, please tell me who you are. I feel like there's something about you that I know you and whatever. And all of us in the theater are like, oh my gosh, she remembers. Yay. They're gonna like be back together. And then it turns out it was Jean. And then Jean takes over in a very villainous way, evil way. The way Zendaya played that evil person, an evil persona, I mean, it was so juicy. I loved it so much that now I want Zendaya to play like an evil queen type role or like an evil person type role, which is hard, right? Because we all know Zendaya as being so likable and lovable, and she brings that to all of her characters. And it's why we love her as a superstar, a movie star. That's the quality that she brings. But in that moment, that performance of her being so mean and evil, I was like, girl, I need that. Yeah. I loved it. And then in a contrast to that scene, we have my other favorite scene, which is the scene when MJ finds the letter. What a powerful scene. That is one of those, again, it's one of those moments in this movie where you realize they really paid attention to the script. They were really trying to build things up to explode in certain scenes. And everything that was happening between Peter and MJ finally exploded in that moment when she found the letter. And that entire sequence between them, the chemistry between them, the performance between them, it was extremely powerful. And it was a hard scene because it was heartbreaking. When she tells him, I don't have those memories. I don't love you. I mean, my heart went like it broke. I thought she broke up with me. I was hurt. So if I felt like that, imagine how poor Peter felt. I mean, he was taking punches from the Hulk. And I guarantee you that hurt him more than a punch from the Hulk. It was like hard to take. But it was still handled with such care and tenderness that the scene came out still being very beautiful. I love that scene. And again, it's one of those moments where Zendaya stole the scene with her performance more than Peter. Because in that moment, Peter is he's more reacting to her and she's the one leading the scene. And she nailed it. I mean, I really have become like a big fan of hers and I'm in awe of what she can do. And I feel like we're only seeing the start of what she can do because I feel like now she's fully coming into her own as an actress and we're only seeing the beginnings. So let's see where she goes with her talents. So then my question is she really done with Peter? Right? So she told him, I don't love you. So are they really done? Because once he takes her back to the home, if you realize the first time when he was swinging her around the buildings and he was holding her, she was looking forward. She was kind of like not holding him a lot. She was afraid. But then on the way back, she was fully hugging him from his shoulder and neck. And she seemed more at ease. And I don't know if that means she remembers, but she felt guilt, a little bit of guilt, because she can tell how much she means to him. And then she lets him come into the apartment, and then they have a conversation with her and Ned, and it was a beautiful, again, way to not have that finding the letter scene be so hard. That next scene made it a little bit more like relaxed because they still were able to become friends in a way. So my question is, does this mean that she will eventually remember him? And if you notice, something that I noticed at the end of the film, when Peter goes to Ned and they do the handshake and Ned remembers the handshake, like muscle memory, could it be that she has that same muscle memory of love? There was one moment in the rooftop scene when Jean was mind controlling MJ, that Jean was trying to make fun of Peter, and she was saying, "You really thought true love's kiss was going to set her free?" Like, so mean, right? But remember, we find out later that when MJ was under mind control, she doesn't remember anything. She was completely gone from her brain. So what if MJ is not mind controlled, but Peter does kiss her? Will she have that muscle memory of love, of romance, and the kiss and the lips touching? So maybe true love's kiss is a thing if it happens when she is not under mind controlled. We'll see. So what's next for her? Is she coming back for another movie? Will she stay? Will they stay friends? Will this be the end of it? Will this be, like I said before, a life lesson that Peter learns to say goodbye and they both move on? I don't know. I mean, if they do more movies, they have to do something with her, right? But I do wonder what's going to happen in the future. If they will rekindle the Hollywood nerd in me who wants Hollywood romance says, yes, I want them to get back together and live happily ever after. But then the realistic in me also says, but I think it would be a great life lesson for Peter to grow up and become a man if he does learn to say goodbye and let her go and live her life in peace. It's a hard thing to do, right? All right, and the last thing I want to talk about is cameos. Let's talk about the cameos. Yelena, Florence Pugh, man, that girl, she brings it every single time. How is it possible that Florence Pugh is such a good actress that even being on a movie for less than 5 minutes, she steals the scene? She is that amazing. I cannot speak any highly of Florence Pugh as an actress. And in this movie, again, small role, but she stole it every single time. And the joke that they had back and forth about big potatoes, small potatoes with the Russian accent. That's my Russian accent, by the way. She did it so well. I loved it. I can't get enough of Yelena Bulova. I want her in every single movie if I can. She is always the best. Always just a delight, basically. Then we had Frank Castle, the Punisher. I'm not a Punisher fan, so I have to admit, him being in the movie for me was not a big wow. It was not a big like, yay, he's in the movie. No, but their dynamic of like almost like either uncle and nephew or big brother and small brother. I really liked their dynamic. I thought they did really well. They had great chemistry. I also liked that in this movie, and the little that I know of the Punisher, he's always like the tough bad guy with the guns, as he was in this movie. But in this movie, he had a softness to him. He was a little bit of a sweetheart, hiding that big heart underneath all of that, anger that he always tries to show off to the world. So in this movie, I feel like that really came across. One thing I didn't like, though, is that they kept referring to this Peter saved Frank in Staten Island. So I'm thinking the entire movie, there's going to be a point where then Frank saves Peter. So at the end of the film, when Frank makes that shot to kill Jean, Instead of killing her, the bullet hits Peter because Peter puts himself in the way of the bullet to sacrifice himself. I felt really bad for Frank. Man, poor guy. He's gonna have to live with that guilt forever. If something would have happened to Peter, can you imagine like how he's gonna feel? He already lost his wife, his kid, and now something like that. That I didn't like. I wish the bullet would not have come from Frank and it would have come from somebody else. And then moving on to Bruce. Bruce Banner, the Hulk, right? As always, a delight. I cannot get enough of having Bruce in a movie or having the Hulk. I love the fight in that big building with the Hulk versus Spider-Man and Frank. It was fantastic. I think it's one of the best fights we've ever gotten of the Hulk on screen. It looked cool. The way he did the big hand, I don't know what you call it, big hand snap for like that big wave that he does, sonic boom wave or whatever. Amazing. Loved it. I mean, again, can't get enough of Bruce Banner. However, now that Gene messed his mind up, there are consequences. Now the Hulk is more likely to come out and Bruce not have control over him, even if he puts an inhibitor like the one that he had before. So again, there are consequences from the things that happen in this movie that I wonder how they are going to handle that moving forward. What's going to happen to the Hulk and Bruce now that that piece that he had found to control it, now he doesn't have it anymore. So that's interesting. Okay. All right, guys. Well, that is my spoiler review of Spider-Man Brand New Day. I went through all my favorite moments. Let me know in the comments below, what were your favorite moments? What other questions you have that maybe I didn't answer, or things that you liked or didn't like? Let's talk about it. I'll see you in the comments below. And as always, let's keep it frank together. Bye-bye.